Well, thank you, Adam. I appreciate it. My name is Geoffrey Pettifer. I'm the Associate Vice President for University Relations and Marketing. I see some familiar faces here, which is great. And I'm here to just sort of give you a little introduction about our department, talk a little bit about brand reputation, and then I'll hand it off to my colleagues in the department to talk a little bit more about specifics in their key areas within it. URM is the communications hub for the university. We are in a very interesting position, with the exception of maybe the president's office, administration and finance. We touch everything. We touch every department. We're primarily involved in high-level communication strategies. A lot of our work is meant to support a lot of the activities that happen here at the university, primarily enrollment. So whether it's graphics, web communication, social media, advertising campaigns, publications, I'm probably missing a few, print shop. We handle a lot of different things, and we take a lot of projects in. If you participated in an orientation that I presented at, I sort of walk you through our process for submitting a project request. That's not what today is about. You can go to the URM website to learn a little bit more about what we do. But we're basically here to have a conversation with you today. So we hope that this is an interactive discussion. But I just want to talk to you a little bit about our core principles when it comes to brand reputation. That is the most important thing that we do in university relations and marketing. Making sure that Stockton is presented in the most positive light possible. Okay? It's not always that. And so we have to make sure that we're ready for that also. But creating a positive perception, whether it's through the public relations that we do, news and media relations, making sure that we have great relationships with the people that cover us, and that we give them a lot of information to cover us, that is putting Stockton's best foot forward. It is an important thing that we do with all the competition out there, especially from an enrollment management standpoint. We have to make sure that Stockton is presented in the best possible light. So whether it's through the things that we do or the supportive stuff that we do for the recruitment cycle, producing the publications and so forth that they take out on the street, producing videos and other types of supportive stuff, open house. We are directly involved in that in terms of helping promote the sort of general sense of what Stockton is all about through video and obviously promoting campaigns and so forth. So making sure that we create a positive perception. Why do we do that? We do as much as we can in terms of controlling the narrative and putting stories out. But we want to make sure that people who are associated with Stockton share that story. Okay, you'll hear more about storytelling and things like that in a bit, but one of the things I like to talk to faculty about is that you are just as much involved in this process as we are. So if you've got great things happening in your area that we can help share, well, then you're participating in part of this communication strategy. And we need to hear from you. The second thing is building Stockton's equity. Right? Again, I go back to competition. We have students that come here every single day, students and families taking tours. They're taking tours at other schools too. So how do we make sure that when they leave here, they have an impression of Stockton that sort of trumps or takes them a sort of step ahead of the other schools that they're visiting or traveling to? Okay. I know some folks, they'll be going to Montclair, they'll go to TCNJ, or they'll go to Rome. But we want to make sure that when they leave here, they've got a good impression of Stockton, and hopefully we'll consider filling out an application and learning more about us, maybe coming to our open houses, or maybe instant decision day. Those are very important days on the calendar. So when you see students walking around here, that communication is constant. We're trying to make sure that they understand the values of Stockton, the mission, and what makes us different than everywhere else. It's one of the things I had a conversation about with our chief enrollment officer, Dr. Bob Heinrich, in terms of just simply stating that there is no other college or university in the state that has what we have. And that is a big factor when we communicate. The equity of how you like Fred, okay, trumps everybody else. There's no other school that has a lake like ours, has a campus like ours, has a beachfront property like ours. That is something we push heavily because it is something that takes us into another level. when it comes to the comparison of other schools. And then finally, one of the things that my department takes a lot of pride in is making sure that we're prepared and responsive. Okay, we get news from the president's office that we just got a high ranking in Money Magazine. Okay, our affordability rating went from somewhere in the 300s to 156. That's pretty impressive. So we look through the methodology, we want to understand how that occurred, and now we're going to tell a story about it and put that out there so that people who are thinking about affording college will see that Stockton is doing a pretty good job. And we'll continue that story throughout the fall and the spring and so forth. We do it all year round. Okay, but we also have to be prepared for things that we don't expect. COVID. We didn't know that was coming. And when it did come, we were still on the fence of how we were going to handle it, right? But my team is always prepared and flexible and nimble enough to respond. So everything that those that are here, who were here during that time, experienced in that 2 or 3 day time period, we experienced too. We had to get a website ready with an FAQ. We had to get information available so that everybody knew what our position was, what we could do, what we couldn't do. In fact, we had a discussion about that yesterday with people who are involved in that type of planning. And we're in the process now of making sure that our information is up to date for the fall. Okay, but we don't know what's to come. Okay, when we read the news, we know what's out there, but how it impacts Stockton, we're still not sure of. But we are ready to go at a moment's notice to make those changes on our website, in our communications, and to provide support for you. Should you have to involve yourself with somebody who has a question or is unsure about something, how we use that to tell their story. So speaking of stories, I'm going to hand things off to Stacey Clapp. Stacey has a new position in University Relations and Marketing. She is our Director of Strategic Communications. She is involved in news and media relations and digital engagement. She was previously Director of Digital Engagement. Diane D'Amico, who is a longtime employee of the Press of Atlantic City, a 5-year employee here at Stockton, is retired. So Stacey's now absorbed that area too. And fortunately for her, we have another professional in our area who has a journalism background. His name is Mark Melhorn, also worked at the Press of Atlantic City and is now Associate Director, or sort of Assistant Director of News and Media Relations. So we're in really good hands with Stacey now that Diane has sort of moved on to her next adventure. But we have her number in case we ever need to. So.
She still has ours.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. And we'll be here to answer any questions when that comes about.
Well, good morning, everyone. I do see a lot of familiar faces, and I appreciate everybody showing up this morning just to hear about how we can work together and support all of you and what you're doing, because as Geoff said, storytelling is a big component of our department. And in fact, Sam and I lead a team of, there's 7 of us writers or storytellers in university relations and marketing. We have 5 other people up in the office who are doing this as well. So we have a very robust group because we have a lot of stories to tell, and they take shape in a lot of different ways. They can be in the form of a story on our website, or connecting a faculty member or students with a reporter from a publication and getting our story out in that manner. Some stories we tell on social media, some stories we tell with photography. So there are a lot of different ways that our creative team can help share what you're doing, and we want to share what you're doing. We look for unique firsts, things that we haven't done before, things that touch a lot of students, or things that are just really specialized, the opposite direction, that maybe something that only Stockton has. We do a lot with, of course, our Marine Field Station and our NAMS programs, because they are very unique, they are very specialized. We are the only university offering some of these programs in the state, or we do them better than everybody else. So we are profiling our best people. Adam talked about how we got connected a few years ago when you started offering your class, I think when Atlantic City opened up, and we were really showcasing visual opportunities at that campus. It was brand new. He has 20 students out on the beach early in the morning, a few days a week. It's a phenomenal photo op. It's a fantastic story to show. Plus then when you're partnering our students with local school students, and that teamwork and showing how we're out in the community, there was a lot of appealing.
And it was through that, by the way, that extended the outreach program I have, because some of the Atlantic City schools actually took note of that in the paper that you got me in contact with. I mean, 3 different news sources that broadcasted that one single event just made the program grow like so much more than the following year. And so it was like fertilizer on a plant in that sense. I mean, it was super helpful. And so that's the direct way that it benefited me, but it also just created all this great publicity around that and the way you told the story on social media, on the Stockton news thing, and on a variety of other. So.
And we even found a CHOOS student that way too.
Yeah, we
Jasmine.
highlighted one of our Choose Stockton students a couple years ago, had taken your class, we got her back out there on the beach with her fishing
Oh,
rod.
Jasmine, yeah.
But what Adam does to also make our lives easier, because while we do have a good sized team, you know, we have hundreds of faculty members and classes and 9,000 students. He sends us pictures,
Yeah.
and so
I don't know if that's that helpful.
No,
'Cause I
they
didn't
are.
take that efficient picture.
you take excellent. His photos are really good. Are you taking them on your phone or?
Phone, cameras, yeah, all sorts of stuff.
So he's been sharing those with Susan Allen and I all summer, and we use them as we can. And I think Adam knows we're not going to be able to use every last photo he sends us, but we'll pull out 1 or 2 and we'll make a social media post. We shared some with the fishing columnist at the press. We look for ways to, again, find the right outlet to match what you're doing. And so feel free to form, a relationship with any member of our team. Let us know what you're doing, and we'll figure out the right slot for it. Matt's got a very interesting project that he's working on, and he reached out to us earlier this summer, and we said, okay, we're going to help. We're going to share some of this right now on social media, but we see the story coming when you've got the student involvement in the fall. So he understood, was being patient, and we're going to connect one of our team members to write a bigger piece. Maybe this might be a pitch to some of our media, the sources that we work with. That brings me to another facet I wanted to cover. And I hope you take this back to your schools and to your colleagues. With my new responsibilities and with bringing on a new team member, Mark, we're trying to create an extensive list of faculty experts, subject matter experts, because we never know on any given day. We could get 5 media inquiries, we could get 1, get 3 or 4, but usually every day some member of some form of media, whether it's the Press of Atlantic City, if it's NJ.com, it's the Philly Inquirer, NBC 10, they're coming from all over, and they ask, do you have somebody who is an expert in, Joe did one recently about tides or something. Yeah, offshore breezes, that's right, in the summer. And Asbury Park Press was writing about that. And, I had to go through the list and on the website to see who might be specializing in this. And I reached out to his school as well, but we're really trying to coordinate a list so that if we get some kind of inquiry for an expert in a certain subject, we can pair you up and we can say, oh yeah, we have a faculty member who is, I don't know what's coming to mind right now, but who can really talk about communication or social work or different elements.
Or they had Jane, they reached out to Jane about the strikes in the hospitality industry.
Right.
Anything.
So we do a lot of connecting with our Levinson Institute for Hospitality and Tourism, with our Youth Center for Public Policy, but we really want to showcase more voices from our faculty and staff that are subject matter experts. So feel free to reach out. We have, if you go to stockton.edu/URM, University Relations and Marketing, you will see all the team members. You can reach out to them. I'll leave a few business cards too, if anybody wants to pick some up and start a conversation with us. But I'll let Sam talk about how she helps tell stories.
Oh, sure. And hopefully, so me and then my staff, and when I talk about my staff, it's Mandy. We are a team of two. Hopefully you read the Stockton news that hits your inbox every Friday. Mandy is in charge of curating that newsletter that goes out, which highlights all the news that, what we're talking about or what's trending. But there's a section that we like to include in there for new faculty or staff members called Roll Call if you're new to the university. But also the section that we're really proud of is called Spotlight On. And we're actually developing a specific web page just for the Spotlight On stories. But if you're on our news archive, you can search Spotlight On and find those. So if you are doing something above and beyond your role as a faculty member that's still connected to your work here. So if you're honored by, an external organization for your work, if you have something published in a journal or a magazine or something a little bit extracurricular that still connects to your work at Stockton and how you impact students, we love to highlight that. We highlight that in Spotlight On. We share it in Stockton News. We put it on the web story. And that just helps promote that you aren't just faculty members. Yeah, you come here and you might teach 3 or 4 or 5 classes a semester, but you're still experts in your field and you're engaged in those communities. And so we like to highlight that because that helps prospective and current students see that, these aren't just people here to teach me. They know what they're talking about. They're out and about, they're out in the field. They know what they're teaching me about. So you can fill out the request form or you could just shoot an email to me or Mandy. I also have my business card up here. And then even if you think it's not about you that you want to talk about, if you have a colleague that you think is doing something great and you're like, they're not one to toot their own horn, but share their story with us. We'd love to hear about it and reach out. We also have our Stockton Now e-zine, which comes out 3 times a year, where we can do a little bit more in-depth stories, especially if you're connecting with alumni or working with students. So in addition to like just our web stories or PR, there are other ways for us to highlight you. The e-zine does get sent out to all our alumni, which is now over 60,000 strong. So it's a great way to share your story and maybe connect with alum that, you might have taught 5, 10, 15 years ago, and they see what you're doing, they might get reconnected. So we love hearing your stories. Please don't feel like you're bothering us or that something is too small. We'd rather know what you're doing rather than you going out on your own. That'll bring me to our next slide here, which is about consistency. So one of the main reasons URM exists is that we are the hub. We are, as Geoff said earlier, we control the tone and the messaging. But all of you as employees of Stockton are a brand ambassador. So if you're not sure how you're supposed to promote something, or somebody maybe from the media reaches out to you and you're like, hey, I'm going to talk to them, but I might need some talking points. Let us know what you're doing. Fill out the request form, send us an email. We'd rather be involved in some way, shape, or form than to see something that maybe isn't up to our brand standards that is then out in the news or out on social media. And we're like, wait, who did this? Why does it look like that? So nothing is too small for us. As Stacey said, we do have a pretty robust team upstairs. Somebody will get back to you or connect with you, and as Geoff stated earlier, since we are connected to so many different departments on campus, if you have an idea or you're working on something, we love to brainstorm. We might have an idea. We might know that, a department in student affairs is working on a project that what you're talking about might fit perfectly in, but you might not be connected to that area. We have our fingers in a lot of pies on campus, and we do know kind of a little bit of what everybody's doing, or we hope to know what everybody's doing. We'd like to know what everybody's doing. So we're a great way to get connected with other departments and areas on campus that might not have come to mind, as you're starting to work on a project or something like that. And then we kind of touched on it earlier when we talked about Choose. One of our big marketing campaign is Choose Stockton. And we like to highlight real Stockton students. What are they doing? We want students, prospective students and their families to see something that comes out from Stockton to be like, that could be my student. that could be me. I think that looks like me. That's what I could do. And the way that we learn about our students and what they're doing is mostly through you all. You are with our students, 3, 4, 5 days a week. You're the one doing the hands-on activities with them. You're getting to know them a little bit more than we could. So we'll usually reach out to either different schools or program chairs and say, hey, do you have an interesting student? What are they doing? What are they up to? Do you think there's somebody that could fit this profile? And we started shifting the campaign a little bit this year. In the past, we've always highlighted what we call our Stockton All-Stars. They are the students that have 2 majors and maybe a minor, and they're an RA and a talent, an ambassador, and also the VP of their club. But we know that most students can't do that. Most students, they have their major, maybe they don't even know what their major is. They might be undecided or changing their minds. So we've shifted a little bit to highlight, quote, the everyday student, because we know that's the majority of the students that we have on campus. Those are the students you're interacting with. Those are the students you're mentoring. So even if, they might not have a laundry list of accolades and things under their belt, but they're a really hard worker. Maybe they had some struggles growing up and they're still here and they're still working on their degree. Those are the people we want to highlight, and the way we find out about them is through you. So even if we don't reach out to you, but you have a student in your class, you're like, this student's really cool. Like, even if they're not a Choose profile, maybe we write an easing story on them. Maybe they're highlighted in social media. Anything that crosses your mind, please share it with us, because that's how we learn, and we'd rather know what's going on than find out about it from another channel. Sure.
Do you anticipate as the university shifts to integrate more adult learners, that your strategic coverage might shift?
Yes, we've actually started. We have a couple non-traditional students that we've started using for some video projects that we do. Video is a big component of what I do in my role, working with production services. And actually, we've put together a couple just short, program specific marketing videos, and we've included non-traditional students in those, because we know, not everyone coming to Stockton is 17 and fresh out of high school. They might be in different roles. And I'm thinking even the accelerated nursing program, they're a little bit older. We had a student, the person I'm referring to is in the pre-communication disorders program. She had a career and she had a degree and she had a change of heart, and now she's back here as a dual learner. So yes. Yep.
Yeah, so we're working to integrate more of that into photo shoots as well. We did a big one in the spring. We definitely had some adult learners as part of that photo shoot, so they'll be represented. And we may find the need to do, another specifically targeting those adult learners in a photo shoot for that, so that we can incorporate that. But that's definitely an area we're keeping an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the same would be true for transfer students also. They may not be as older as the students that you're talking about, but they do represent a demographic and a target that we are eager to get a hold of. So we do like to tell their stories too. If it involves another school, fine. If it's one of those partner schools at the community college level, that's an even better story with our transfer pathways. So we are looking at a variety of different target markets to share the Stockton story, to let people know the diversity that we actually have. We want to celebrate that.
Right. So we're first and foremost, we're definitely looking at recruiting students to Stockton and the Stockton brand. But that's where we connect with all of you then to tell the stories of what's behind that brand. We know that students who interact with a faculty member when they're on campus for an open house or a tour often will send a note or rave about that experience as making a difference in their decision to choose Stockton. So while Geoff was talking about how our geography sets us apart and really makes Stockton unique, we know our faculty do too, that you have your heart, your role and what you do is something else we want to showcase. And we do that, in all different ways. We've talked a lot. I do, there's some questions.
She has a program called
Get Fit at Stockton.
So
Great.
she's just pointing out
That sounds like it. That's not one that Yeah, now that we are really back in person, last year was definitely a bridge to a lot more back in person, and we were doing a lot more coverage of events. There was still a lot happening virtually. Again, this year I think is another step closer to what it was pre-COVID, and you will see our whole team out and about at events, covering events, taking photos. Susan Allen is here. I mean, you will see her often with her camera all over campus, and sometimes in your classrooms too. So we appreciate that openness. Are there any other questions? All right.
Well, thank
No,
you
that was
very
the end
much
of the
for
slides.
time today. I really appreciate it. Look forward to hearing from all of them.
Yes.
We're gonna get a roster of who was here.
Yeah, all right.
So one of the things, so I definitely think that being able to integrate this for that, being able to, access the stories and be, like, not everybody has the opportunity to have a whole, essentially PR, right, available to promote and tell their story. But I also think too, like production services, being able to do like short videos.
Yes.
Right, is another whole piece.
Yes, and we work very closely with them, and we have Ed Willerman, who is our Director of Creative Services, who runs our graphics and print shop operation. His background, he was the former art director of Channel 6 in Philadelphia, joined us a few years ago. So his video skills are right up there with production services, and often consult with them actually on some of their production. But we work hand in hand with them, as Sam mentioned. She's heavily involved in the content creation with videos like you mentioned. A few years ago, we started a process of doing videos for individual academic programs. But because there are so many of them, we've shifted gears a little bit. And this year, I've challenged the team to do videos for the schools. This would be another asset that they could put on the school website, talk a little bit about a variety of different programs, maybe not everything, but at least show some visuals, some variety that might tempt someone to want to dig a little bit deeper into what that school offers. So we are right in line with that. We are working hard on pulling that together. We hope to get them all done this year, but it takes a long time to produce a video that size. And we may be calling on some of you to participate, even if it's just in a classroom while you're doing your instruction. We're the fly on the wall, taking that candid view of what's really happening for B-roll or whatnot. So be prepared for that.
Let's see.
How does this connect with program websites? Is that integrated? Is there a way for us to like collate those things? Or is it some learning?
Yes, every school should have someone involved in content management for that school's website. There are people at the program level who are also responsible for the content for their individual programs. However, we have a staff or web development team or web communications team that can work with best practices, how to manage your content, and so forth. In fact, tomorrow there's going to be a meeting among content managers and content manager users group. If you're not involved or not aware of who is involved in your school, I can touch you with them to find out who that is and how you can get the support that you're looking for.
One thing we are doing to create content for those program pages, so we've talked about Choose Stockton. That's been our campaign for 6 years now, maybe
6 or 7.
something like that. So we have over 50 students we have featured through Choose Stockton. So we have a new team member, and she's been spending a lot of time this summer reaching back out to some of those earliest students who graduated in 2017, 2018, 2019, or maybe even a little earlier, and getting an update on where they at now. Did they go to grad school? Are they employed in their field? What sort of, ways are they succeeding now thanks to their time at Stockton? And we'll be rolling out this fall updated Choose profiles that, again, because we have students from every single school here, from a lot of different programs, that you can, you'll be able to link and
Pull their
import
testimonial.
into your program pages as well.
So we have alumni of, so we're sociology and anthropology, and unlike our TV shows, students don't really know. And we've recently kind of learned that there are some focusing and advising and or potential that we have to do to tell students not to major in our program because there's a future in it. So we're really trying to proactively,
Great.
Give imagery and links and like real life examples of this is all cool stuff on our graduates and the world. So if we have like a list of around their
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And
That's
that can
what we
also
want.
be done, there's a new little widget for the website, a testimonial component, and all your content manager would even need to do is upload a picture and a little soundbite from that student, and they can build out testimonials on the website as well. So we can approach it from a few different angles.
it'll rotate the. Okay.
Yeah, but just send us that information and we'll figure out the best way to
Okay.
promote it.
And just to add to that, I want to encourage people, if you're doing a field trip in your class, you just have something very interactive with students. And, you know, the simulation lab, or you're working at the observatory, or the storms, you know, you let us know when you're doing a certain things. Photo ops. And then one other little tip for our future stories, we tag them like school and academic programs, so you type in environmental science or geology stories that we've covered with that tag will all come up and you can take them.
We didn't talk a lot about social media, and you probably all have varying comfort levels with social media in the room and which platforms you like. But we do have a team who works on our social media. If your class is having one of these wonderful experiences, and students may want to host a takeover of that trip or activity on Stockton's Instagram, or maybe they want to think about putting together just some sort of TikTok that highlights what they're learning and what they're doing in your class. And we can partner on all of that. So just keep that in the back of your mind too, that social media is where a lot of our prospective students are getting their information about Stockton. And that's on Instagram is their #1 platform, and TikTok is growing. So we're trying to maximize how we use these platforms and be strategic about our content and showing what's happening here.
Yeah, and if you're not following us on those platforms, I encourage you to do that. That way you'll get a chance to see the things that Stacey's talking about. For example, tomorrow we'll have student ambassadors telling the story of what's happening in the city during the year. They'll be hosting it, they'll be posting. We do that just to make sure that it's appropriate for our channel, but yeah, we'll hand off the device to them and they'll figure that out. And it's become a very successful strategy to show that peer-to-peer sort of communication. Here are students, and if you're a prospective student, you see the people that are just like you, engaging and experiencing Stockton firsthand. So we like to showcase that as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm impressed that my students have done Instagram takeovers for like MLK days. So it's always it's a good experience for the student, very hands-on, and it's a great promotional.
Yeah.
And who else but students to be our best sort of brand ambassadors to tell the story, right? They speak the language, they tell the story, they help us do our job. So we want to maximize that as much as possible. In fact, we bring in interns frequently, every semester to help us with our social media, help us with our writing, things like that, so that we're relevant to the prospective audiences that we're trying to reach.
Any other questions?
Nothing else in the chat.
No.
Well, thanks again for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank
We're always
you.
accessible, as Stacey mentioned and Sam mentioned. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us. You can simply send an email to us, pick up the phone and say, hey, Geoff, Sam, Stacey, Susan, I've got an idea. I'd love to talk more about it. Can I speak with a member of your team directly? And we will accommodate you and find time to do that. Okay? And we do try and find out everything that's going on, but if there's something, very interesting, like we mentioned, is newsworthy or relevant to things that are happening in current events, we'd like to know about that too, because as much as media reaches out to us, we want to sort of turn the tables a little bit and start reaching out to them and pushing those stories to them. whether it's, dealing with tides or upwelling or things like that. We want to push and say, hey, instead of calling some of these other schools, call Stockton, or we have somebody for you if you're interested in covering the story in a little bit more detail. So we are going to get a little bit more aggressive with that, and we'd love to have your help. Yes.
In our classes. Build that into our courses or to reach out to the how
I'll give you an example of that, but not a lot of times, just in terms of waivers, usually for photo and video. Yes, obviously, we have to get an endorsement from the student to showcase work that they've done, or if we tell a story about it, we're going to endorse the story by showcasing and telling, what that student did. But the first thing is finding out and letting us know. You can do that through, can you pull up the request form real quick? I just want to make sure that you guys are familiar with it. And it is a great resource just to touch base with URM if you don't want to reach out or just don't happen to think about, oh, I can reach out to this person directly. If you go to the our services page, that green button is what you want to press. And it is a form that opens up and it's pretty interactive.
We're updating it.
Yeah, so I want to point out the red, okay? We put it in red for a reason, because a lot of times we will get notification from a faculty member or another department or something and say, oh, I've got this stuff, I need to get it out tomorrow. We would love to accommodate that, but it's very difficult for us to do. Because of the volume of requests that we do get, we want to provide the same level of service to everybody who puts in a request. And that's the reason for that 4-week gap. However, I will say this, a lot of times it takes us much less than 4 weeks to complete a project. We are just buffering to make sure that we allow enough time. If you have something that is newsworthy that needs to get out, just select the next available date and block out for a month. So just go a month ahead and pick that date. And then in the descriptions of the note sections, this is a rush. I need to talk to somebody right away, or scroll to the bottom of the form and you will see links to the individuals in the department that you can reach out to directly and we will work with you on that. Okay, so I don't want that red to intimidate you. I just wanted you to see it as a guide so that if you are planning, start planning 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time, 4 weeks ahead of time, so that we can work together and whatever and work together on whatever you're doing, making it successful. Yes.
I just wanted to add to that, from my experience with, you asked about the consent forms. I had no idea how to do them or locate them when I first started this kind of stuff. Then as soon as Stacey and Susan showed me, both for photo or video, then, well, the first time around, when I coordinated with them that for an upcoming event, they brought those materials themselves. But then after that, I learned where to access them myself, and then I just print them out ahead of time before I might not even, if it's like a small event or something, I might not even remember to have, told Stacey beforehand, but I would have printed out those forms to make sure everyone involved, not just the students, also signed that off. So that then afterwards, when I have the pictures and recordings, etc., then I reach out to them, and if it's something that they can do something with, they have all the forms already ready to go. So yeah, it's really straightforward, those forms.
Yeah, and it's just something we can email out if there's a need for that.
The only other thing I want to point out too is that we have a lot of other resources on our website. I would encourage you to take a look at it. In addition to the service request form, we have a brand guide, which goes into a lot of detail about who we are and gives some suggestions of how you can sort of represent our brand. Obviously, logo downloads, PowerPoint templates, virtual backgrounds for Zoom, all kinds of interesting stuff. We also have email signatures and things of that nature. So all you need to do is check out that brand guide, and all that stuff is available to you when you take the time to look for it. All right.
The PowerPoint templates are great if you're putting together your own PowerPoints for your class. Just nice and clean. Thank you.
Going once, going
Thank you.
twice.